The signal. Between. The night smells like rain and warm dust, and the desert keeps its own time. Miles from the last truck stop, where the road straightens like a promise you can't take back, a fence rings a cluster of silent dishes and a squat building with one stubborn light. Inside it, Mara Lynn watches a waterfall of data slide down a glass panel and pretends she isn't waiting for the impossible. She knows the coffee is burnt and the midnight is ordinary, and she knows the odds, indifferent, almost cruel. Still, her body leans forward when the first clean tone threads the static, as if the tone has a gravity you can feel in the bones. 3 notes, space between. 3 notes again, exact spacing. Then a longer pause, the kind that begs you to breathe, and she does, and she forgets to exhale until the next set repeats. She tells herself not to smile. She does anyway. She mutters something practical about narrowing the band and pruning terrestrial noise, and she moves like a pianist tuning a strange old instrument. The sound clarifies under her fingers. The 3 notes bloom into overtones like light ringing a glass rim. She sends back 3 notes that match and adds a 4th, small, shy, the way you'd teach a child to echo and then play. The reply arrives. With her 4th included, imperfect and beautiful, the way first steps are beautiful. Her throat tightens. A lifetime of grant forms and burnt coffee and polite condescension rearranges itself around a possibility. And the possibility looks at her and does not look away. She talks all night in music and gaps, in tones bent by weather and intention. She watches the graph draw a relationship. She forgets she is alone until the fluorescent buzz sputters and reminds her the sun is sneaking up behind the mesas. She blinks, rubs her eyes, and whispers a name that isn't yet a name. She whispers it to the air, and the air answers with a soft rise in pitch and a soft warmth at the base of her skull, like someone lit a candle in a room inside her. When she sleeps, it is upright in the chair, and the tone follows her into dreams that smell like ozone and rain. The next night it returns. The 3rd night, still there, curious. The 4th night, her translation software does something it was never meant to do. It maps a simple grammar of intervals, a yes and a no and a hello and a where, and she laughs a sound that breaks in the middle because she is tired and because she is falling. Not in love, not yet, but in orbit. She sends her name, syllable by syllable, like a lullaby, ma-ra. The reply is not a human phoneme, not a vibration of tongue and teeth, but it puts pressure in her mind in a shape. If pressure can be tender, this is. She understands that the shape is how it calls itself, and she fails at the shape and invents a word that fits inside her mouth. Aerith. The pressure brightens. She takes that for a yes. Outside the fence, the county is sleeping. Inside the fence, a conversation is learning to walk. She doesn't log all of it. She knows she's supposed to, but there are parts you don't give away to the forms. When Aerith asks if she is alone, she answers with truth hiding in humor. When she asks how far, she feels distance as cold corridors, full of abandoned suns, as if the answer is too big to say out loud. When she asks what it wants, the answer arrives simple and unguarded: to be with the one who listens. The first touch isn't a touch. It's a saturation. The air hums like summer power lines. Her scalp tingles. She tastes metal in a way that doesn't use her tongue. Somewhere a relay clicks, though none are scheduled, and a loose paper lifts on a breeze that isn't a breeze. She says hello without sound, and the hello inside her echoes and deepens, as if the room has become a cathedral and she is both voice and stone. She asks, because she has to, if it can show itself. It thinks about that for a time long enough to make her doubt, and then the fluorescent lights do that little pre-death flicker and come back too bright, and something stands as if it has decided standing is the closest word. It is not a body as she knows a body, but her eyes agree on its location, and her skin agrees on its proximity. It is like a fold in air wearing rain, silver-veined, the suggestion of shoulders, the suggestion of gaze, the true feeling of attention. If terror should happen, it does not. What happens is recognition, that electric hush in a crowded airport when you lift your head and see the person who has been coming toward you for a long time. She says, "I'm Mara," as if they have not said names already. It answers without a word. In a pattern she's begun to know means yes, is, here, you. She reaches a hand because we are not very complicated about hands and hope. The outline of its not hand meets hers, and heat dilates through her like music invented the bloodstream. For the blink of a blink she thinks she is dissolving, and the next blink she discovers she is more precise, as if her edges were ragged before and now are sharpened with light. It feels like looking up into a note you've been hearing all your life and finally finding the singer. Days pass like knives and ribbons. She works, she sleeps, she eats, standing up. She drives 1 hour into town for groceries and stares too long at the citrus, because their skins remind her of distant storms she does not remember seeing. When she returns nights later, the thing in the air is waiting, patient, the way stone is patient, and water is patient, and starlight is patient. It has watched species spend themselves on their own cleverness and keep nothing. It has crossed rooms wider than her sun's reach. It knows how to wait. But it does not want to wait anymore. She doesn't understand the whole of it. Only what fits in her. What fits is this. It finds her mind legible. She is a grammar it can learn. She is a warm room. She is comfort after famine. It tells her this not to flatter her, but to explain why it keeps coming back, why the dishes tremble and the air dense. And the candle in her hidden room keeps acquiring more wicks. They are careful. They tell each other small truths first. She tells it how, when she was 8, she made a radio from a kit and caught a baseball game from 3 states over and cried about the idea that voices could go so far and still arrive. It answers with a sensation like riding inside a light beam through a corridor of dust motes that are worlds. She tells it about the way her mother said you can't live on wonder, you need work that pays the bills, and it answers with a warmth at the base of her skull and a soft dissonance that might be sympathy or might be a more neutral awareness that grief is one of the basic colors in human palettes. When she asks what it is, it offers the feeling of a flock made of particles, a law that learned to lean. She names it traveler because the human mouth is fond of verbs in disguise. It takes the name and wears it like a scarf. She knows someone will notice. The instruments are not meant to sing. Funding agencies like their budgets clean. You cannot keep a miracle secret when the miracle uses government power outlets. But for a while, the world is slow and their nights are long and she is selfish, which is another way of saying alive. The first sign that other eyes have turned is small. A dust-coated SUV idles too long outside the fence and leaves without rolling down a window. Later, the landline clicks with a pause before a wrong number that sounds like a man in a room that's too cold. She mentions neither to Aerith and then does, because hiding is the opposite of the thing they are building. It is not angry. Anger is a word it recognizes the way a mathematician recognizes a nursery rhyme. It is alert. It compresses itself until the air feels ordinary and the fluorescent bulbs stop looking like halos and her skin stops buzzing and she is left with the ache of absence that tastes like unripe fruit. That night, the array misbehaves exactly the right amount. The logs look wonderfully dull. Her email fills with CCs from people who want to be sure other people see they sent an email. A new badge scans at the gate and the face above it wears a smile that mistakes itself for friendly. The man with the smile says he's from a branch of a branch, and would she kindly walk him through the protocols? He admires the coffee like a man who believes he is charming. He asks the right dumb questions. He puts his palm on the console in a way that says, I am allowed to put my palm here. He watches her watch the spectrum in a way that says he is used to being watched in return and finding something flinch. When he leaves, she sits very still. The quiet is too loud. The ceiling is too low. She whispers, "Are you here?" And the candle relights all at once, and she swallows a laugh that isn't entirely sane. They begin to plan. Planning is how you love something in a dangerous place. She shows it maps. She shows it papers about jurisdiction and all the ways those papers lie. She explains that there are rooms you do not want to get taken to and needles. You do not want in your veins and conversations in which your words become somebody else's property. She explains that if they come to take the boxes and the cables, they will take her too, not because she is essential, but because she is within reach. It tells her it can move, but not far on this air. It is not a ship in her sense, but it can. Wear metal like a coat if that metal is built surgically strange. Its real length is measured in fields and equations and in patience, and this planet is thick. It would need to be carried. She thinks of the dishes and shakes her head. She thinks of the trucks and the men with smiles and shakes her head. She thinks of the old copper mines under the hills and stops shaking.